On March 5, 1891, a group of people met at W.J. Murphy's Crossroads, our church's present location, to organize a Baptist church. The minutes of that meeting reads as follows. We, the presbytery of the Missionary Church of Christ, met at W.J. Murphy's Crossroads and went into an organization of a missionary Baptist church. Letters were read and received, and the articles of faith were read by the moderator. They went into a covenant with each other. There were 17 charter members and 27 by the end of the first year. Services were held on Saturday and Sunday. In the beginning, they met on the first Sunday of the month and the Saturday before the first Sunday. All male members of the church were required to attend all orders of business of the church, and business was carried out on both days. For the first year, the church met in the schoolhouse, which was located across the road from our present location called Man's Schoolhouse. The first building was built in 1892, with a flue being added to heat the building in 1895. The church building, which was called the church house, was a one-room building and was located behind our present building. In January of 1904, the church decided to rebuild their house as on the evening of the 18th of January in 1904, it was burned by accident. The building was first painted in 1907 and the ceiling enclosed in 1915. In the late 1948 or early 1949, electrical power was first brought to Walter Community. Sunday school classes started in September of 1899. As the number of classes grew, white curtains were hung by wire to separate the rooms for classes. A bell was bought for the church in 1908 and placed in a bell tower. It would later be placed in the bell tower of the new building. In 1953, the church voted to build a new building at our present location. The building was completed and the first services were held in May of 1954. The basement of that church was dug by hand and the church members provided the labor. Even then, to get anything done right, you had to involve the WMU. After moving into the new brick building, a decision was made to change the name from Pilgrim's Rest Baptist Church to Walter Baptist Church in 1956. In the early years, the church used outside venues for baptisms. Part of the Duck River, known as Clearwater Beach in North Walter, was one place. The Blue Hole on the Mulberry, where the shrine is located now, was another choice. The Blue Hole was used for many years. In the pictures, you will notice how the hairstyles and clothing has changed. Local ponds were also used for baptisms. The pond belonging to Brother Earl Braswell, located behind the church and across the road, was one of the most frequent used. Some of you attending today may find yourselves in some of these pictures. In this picture, you can see the recessed stage, the side walls angled to the back with the side room on the right and the staircase to the basement on the left. Typically, it held the pulpit and two chairs. We still use the two chairs today. The tradition of having a church wedding began in the old building and continued into the current. Lizzie Daniel is thought to have had the first church wedding at Walter, which would have been in the old building sometime in the 1930s. One of the earliest weddings in the new building, perhaps the first, was that of Ronald Burns and Ray Bradford, sister-in-law to Bobby Bradford. Our first indoor baptistry was built in 1963. It was located in the raised recess area previously used to hold the pulpit. The stage was extended to provide for the pulpit. A well was dug on the south side of the church to provide water for the baptistry. The mural behind the baptistry was painted directly onto the plaster wall and still exists today. When the old baptistry was taken out, it was covered. Care was taken to protect it should plans ever be made to display it again. An educational portion was built in 1968 for Sunday school classes as well as a fellowship hall. This gave us the modern conveniences of a kitchen and our first indoor restrooms. In the original design, the men would have to step outside to enter the facilities, but that was quickly changed. We were unable to find any pictures of the old outhouse. The choir loft was created in 1973, and then in 1978 the pulpit and the choir loft were extended. In the late 1970s, the bell tower was removed from the roof because of a leak. On June 24, 1979, the church accepted plans to remodel the front of our building with the rock and glass look we have today. The front bathrooms and nursery were added at this time. The bell A-frame was completed and the bell was hung in March of 1980. The A-frame you see in our church yard is modeled after the bell tower at 7th Street Baptist Church in Coleman. The spiral steeple was added in February 1982 with money for the steeple coming from an anonymous donor. Grading and graveling was done on the church during this year. Other improvements and additions are the stairwell between the auditorium and the basement and the church sign in 1976. The final addition to our building was completed in 1997. All construction, electrical, and plumbing work were done by our church members. After the concrete was poured, the men of our church worked on 3 Saturdays to have the building blacked in. The parking lot was paved in May of 2006. The pavilion and the playground was added in June of 2007. The front bathrooms were made wheelchair accessible in 2010. There is a touching story of God's grace in how we got our new baptistry. John Reitman donated money from his mother after her passing. The following is her story as told by John. My mother was Methodist and my dad was Catholic. Neither practiced their religion. I started attending church with my sister when I was 8 years old in 1947. My mother and sister moved to Coleman in 2001. Linda and I convinced Mom to attend Walter Baptist Church with us. In 2002, Brother Sherman Bailey baptized Mom, who was 88 years old. I know she was really pleased with herself, as was Linda and I. Brother Sherman said it was the first time that he had ever baptized an 88-year-old female. In telling his story, coming to acknowledge God and in faith in Jesus Christ, C.S. Lewis described himself as the most reluctant convert in all of England. He went on to say that he had hoped that he had come to a place, but found that he had come to a person. Whatever the circumstance a person may find himself in this place, may it always be our greatest endeavor to introduce him to the person of Jesus Christ, the risen Son of God, through whom we have redemption, the forgiveness of sin. Since its inception, Walter Baptist Church has been a mission-minded body of believers. In its first year of existence, Walter Baptist Church participated in missions through the Coleman Baptist Association. The minutes record that offerings were given to the Orphans' Home of $19.79, Aged Ministers of $8.82, and Missions of $83.09. The earliest example of helping the community is when the community school burned and the church let the school use its building in 1903. As the years passed, local missions expanded. In August of 1936, Reverends Virgil Sizemore and J.S. Schultz began a series of meetings in the home of P.J. Yarbrough. From these meetings, 6 people were saved, including Mr. Yarbrough and his wife. In September of 1937, letters were granted to P.J. Yarbrough and his wife, George King, Cecil King, Ida Overton, G.W. Davis and his wife, Otis Hudson and his wife, Goldie Overton, Mildred Overton, Clayton Cheney, and Rufus Davis, for the purpose of organizing a new church at the mission station. In the summer of 1938, revival services were conducted under a brush arbor that the Yarbrough sons had built. Missions has continued over the years. We have given fruit baskets to the elderly, helped people during long hospital stays, helped with the strain created by job loss. We have sent money for disaster relief, helped feed the hungry, collected a relief fund for the underprivileged, and donated to the local fire department. We have purchased and shipped shoes to the Afghan children. We have sent non-perishable items to missionaries Randy and Janice Hicks in Japan. And many of our members have been faithful to visit our shut-ins and those who are in the nursing home. Walter Baptist Church is a strong supporter of foreign missions. We not only send our money, we go. 4 trips have been made to the Blue Mountain region of Jamaica. This area is northeast of Kingston. Those who have gone are as follows. In 1995, Bruce and Nana Ellard. 96, Bruce and Matt Ellard, John Stewart, and Joyce O'Brien. 97, Bruce and Nana Ellard, John Stewart, Joyce O'Brien, and Charlotte Hicks. And in 98, Bruce and Nana Ellard, Joyce O'Brien, John Stewart, Lucretia Hollingsworth, Matt Ellard, and Derek Phillips. In the fall of 1997, Brother Edsel Riddle, our pastor, along with Bruce and Nina, made a trip to Spain. There they worked with a missionary in the San Sebastian area of northern Spain. From 2001 to 2005, ladies from our church teamed up with Center Star Baptist Church in Killen and Highland Park Baptist Church in Muscle Shoals. Their mission field was Guatemala. The women worked at a feeding center and held Bible school classes. From 2001 to 2005, those that went were Joyce O'Brien, John Stewart, and Melanie Bentley. In February of 2006, John Reitman traveled to Thailand. He was part of an East Coleman Baptist Association work group that worked for 2 weeks to repair homes that were damaged by the devastating tsunami that struck Southeast Asia. This was John's last mission trip, as he was forced to end this ministry after Linda, his wife, was diagnosed with cancer. Our pastor, Brother Tony Mitchell, went to Belize last year, 2015. There, Brother Tony led revivals while Carrie helped teach Bible school. Brother Tony has been to Belize, Guatemala, and the Philippines, and his daughter Carrie has been to Belize and the Philippines. Members of our church have made several trips within the United States. These trips are sponsored by the East Coleman Baptist Association, and the workers come from various churches within the association. Here are some examples. In 1980, Clyde and Edna Earl Hicks traveled with 24 others from the ECBA to help build an adobe material building for the Mesilla Spanish Baptist Church in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Additional trips were made the following 2 years to other states. In 1995, Doug and Joyce O'Brien, along with Johnny and Linda Duke, traveled to the south side of Bowling Green, Kentucky, and worked on the building for Calvary Baptist Church. In 1996, they worked on the building of Harmony Baptist Church in Cedartown, Georgia. In 2002, John Reitman did construction work at the Hillcrest Baptist Church Youth Camp in Cave in Rock, Illinois. The plan was to convert a summer camp into a yearly camp for boys and girls. As of 2007, over 3,000 boys and girls have been led to Christ as their Savior since its opening as a full-time camp. In June of 2009, John went to Oklahoma. He worked framing for a new addition, plus repairs and painting. Hanobia Baptist Church is located on an Indian reservation. In June 2005, John made a trip to Manny Springs Baptist Church in Holdenville, Oklahoma, where he worked on framing for a new church. And after an arsonist destroyed the church of a small black congregation in Panola, Alabama, John helped in the reconstruction of Galilee Baptist Church in 2006. Walter Baptist Church has been a supporter of Gates to Heaven, the ministry founded by Linda Grajewski, the daughter of Helen Faust, who grew up in this church and now lives in Tennessee. Each year she takes her horses, equipment, and supplies to the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, where she ministers to the Lakota Indians, better known as the Sioux Indians. The following is from Linda's book. Because of the dire poverty and living conditions, many face depression and hopelessness, resulting in a suicide rate of 150% of the national average. The Lakota have called themselves for centuries the people of the horse. We do horse and Bible camps for the children, women's Bible studies, and a recovery program, assist with the jail ministry, small home repair, and construction projects. The Cheyenne River Reservation in South Dakota is another location where Linda serves Christ with her horse ministry. In 2008, we were part of the Every Door, Every Heart outreach in our county. Week-long tent revivals were held in our county. That year, we sponsored a revival location at the Walter Fire Department. In 2010, our church partnered with the state of Michigan. Our pastor, Gary Waddell, led a revival in Michigan, and their pastor came and led revival at Walter. We participate each year with Franklin Graham's Operation Christmas Child. We're blessed to have Ricky and Lisa Carr lead us in this wonderful ministry. We collect items to be put in shoe boxes so the children overseas will have a gift and may see God's love through that gift. Members from our church have made 2 trips to the distribution center in Atlanta to prepare the shoe boxes for overseas shipment. This year, Walter Baptist Church will be a collection point for churches to bring their shoe boxes. The children's ministries are interwoven within WMU and Brotherhood, as they provide the leadership for both GAs and RAs and support various children's activities. In the past, our church has sent children from GAs and RAs to camp at Shockoe Springs and World Song. The church sponsored a baseball club in 1961 and 1963. The largest single event every year at Walter is Vacation Bible School. Statistics for Southern Baptists show VBS is the most effective means of sharing the gospel to our communities. The importance that we place on VBS is illustrated by the large number of our members who help with VBS each year. The outreach to youth is a vital part of Walter Baptist Church. The first record of regular Sunday night services was in September of 1932. It was known as Baptist Youth People's Union, or BYPU. In 1960, Brother Clarence Coker led the effort to see that our youth were involved. Youth were encouraged to attend monthly Youth Association meetings, state youth evangelism conferences, and other opportunities. In the 1970s, music and youth were combined to broaden the evangelical mission using an ensemble to share the gospel. Various youth directors have led our youth over the years, and each group has its own identity. Neil and Melanie Bentley joined Walter in 2002. Melanie has been our youth leader since 2002. She's very active with our youth and has them involved in almost all of our church activities. They help construct the boxes of Operation Christmas Child. They work with VBS. They do yard work for our elderly. They visit the elderly, and each year our youth gives a Valentine banquets for our widows. We have sent our youth to youth conferences. During the years of 2011, 2012, and 2013, our church sponsored our youth to Cook Springs and Talladega for the I Serve Student Missions Weekend Retreat. Since 2005, the church has sponsored our youth 12 times to either MFuge, Mission Student Life Camp, or Team Effort. These camps are week-long camps held at various locations throughout the United States and are held at Christian colleges and universities. This year, in 2016, for the first time, 2 of our youth have gone to MFuge Camp as counselors. We are proud of Clint O'Brien and Nikki Kleins. It has been good to see them grow in Christ. The impact of all the MFuge camps conducted throughout the United States has been amazing. Here are some examples. In 2010, 1,013 souls saved. 2011, 1,129. 2014, 1,404. 2015, 1,167. Missions is our opportunity to join God in meeting the needs of a lost and hurting world. Those needs are met only when we are obedient to God for the call He has placed on our lives. Walter is where we worship. The church at Walter is who we are. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. For this reason, ever since I heard about your faith in the Lord Jesus and your love for all the saints, I have not stopped giving thanks for you, remembering you in my prayers. I keep asking the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the glorious Father, that He may give you the spirit of wisdom and revelation, so that you may know Him better. I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened, in order that you may know the hope to which He has called you, the riches of His glorious inheritance in the saints, and His incomparably great power for us who believe. Pilgrim's Rest Church began holding services in May of 1891. Services were on the first Sunday of the month and the Saturday before this date. Business was conducted both days, and minutes were recorded for each session. It was normal for churches to hold church services one weekend a month in those days, and churches would visit each other on the Sundays they didn't meet. The minutes also reflected the finances of the church. For example, in February of 1902, the deacons made a satisfactory settlement for the payment of the pastors in 1901. Payment was $32.85. In November of 1936, the church for the first time had its first budget. Our church has been a member of the Coleman Baptist Association from its beginning. Messengers to the 1891 annual meeting are recorded in the books. The following is taken from the Coleman Baptist Association records. The 19th annual session was held at Pilgrim's Rest Baptist Church on October 22, 23, 24 in 1901. Pilgrim's Rest, or Walter Baptist Church, started Sunday school in 1899. The minutes on May 1899 read as follows: called a conference of Sunday school. And in the September of 1899 minutes, there was a move and a second to endorse Brother Ledbetter's plan of Sunday school work. The first record found of Sunday school officers elected in 1901 were Superintendent A.B. Jackson, Assistant Superintendent E.C. Braswell, Teacher of Advanced Class W.T. Mayo. The first recorded note in conference meetings of WMU are in March of 1929. The minutes read: a resolution was made to thank the WMU for painting the inside of the church. The WMU sponsors the mission offerings, the Lottie Moon Christmas offering, the Annie Armstrong Easter offering, the Myers-Mallory offering, and the World Hunger offerings. WMU sponsors the Girls in Action, or GA's program, to teach young girls the importance of being involved in missions. The WMU brings missions home by providing meals for families suffering from illness or death, takeout meals so our shut-ins can participate in the annual Thanksgiving dinner, and helping local food banks. The WMU sponsors prayer efforts to support missions and also our local school children and those who work in our schools. And finally, they honor our mothers, fathers, and veterans on their special days each year. Uncertain as to the beginning of the Brotherhood as an organization, the first mentioning of Brotherhood breakfast meetings is in the church minutes of January of 1978. Our Brotherhood meets for breakfast on the first Sunday morning of each month. After our current fellowship hall was built, a community pancake breakfast was held to honor our local volunteer fire department, and it has continued as an annual outreach ministry to our community. As a result, one year we had the opportunity to offer English as a second language class for local Hispanic families. The Brotherhood sponsors the Royal Ambassadors, RAs, and supports other church programs and activities. Several of our men have made trips over the years with the RAs for summer youth conferences, camping, and fishing trips. In recent years, the Brotherhood has served the community by building wheelchair ramps for local families. From the first organizational meetings, music has played a very important role in worship and has served as an outreach program for our church. Singing schools are the first evidence of an organized musical program. Annual singings were held in the past where people gathered together to sing from the new songbooks or to sing just for the fellowship and praise. In 1965, our pastor and a group of singers began participating in the weekly association radio program. In 1966, Doug and Joyce O'Brien came to Walter Baptist Church. At that time, Reba Joan Coker, daughter of Pastor Clarence Coker, was singing with a group of young children in the church. Brother Coker wanted to have a choir. Joyce was elected church pianist, and Doug was the music director. A Wurlitzer piano was purchased and a choir was formed. Charles Baker was included in one of the musicians of our church. Doug has been a choir member and Joyce the pianist, playing the same piano for the past 50 years. We are grateful for their faithful commitment to serve their Lord through the music ministry of Walter Baptist Church.